Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. This is part of our video series that we do through the YOLOdoor.com, which is really just to help people understand what's the best path that they might take in as they're exploring career options. And I know that a lot of the people I talk to, because they love hanging out at coffee shops, they think, "Oh man, I would love to own a coffee shop." And I always think, I bet you don't really have clear insight into what actually goes on in owning a coffee
Yep.
shop. And so,
Yep.
since you and I have become acquainted, I thought you'd be a great source to answer some of these questions. So, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to talking about it a little bit because obviously it's not what people think. That would be one comment.
yeah.
But
Well, good. Well, maybe a good place to start is, introduce the coffee shop that you own, because I love it. I'm there all the time. I know that's how we've gotten to know each other. But just tell people maybe a little bit about how you even got plugged in and started the business.
well, here's and when you mention that, I went through the same thing. Millions of people are probably going through. I was in corporate America. I was a commission sales guy forever and ever. Made a good living. Moved up the ranks. Became vice president of field sales for $100 million company. But it went from growing top line to growing bottom line. And what that means is cut the cost before the cost. So I'm the guy flying around the country saying goodbye to my friends, which is not something you want to do. It's an ugly ride. So when they came to me and it's your last day, I'm like, thank you. I'm out of here. And it was a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. But then comes, what am I going to do next? There you are. There's the challenge. So a wise person came to me early on. I remember who I was talking to. And he said, the person basically told me, make a list of what you want to accomplish in owning a business. And that was like the best idea ever because just like you go buy a car, you find this, you go and step on a lot, and there's this red Corvette over there. And you're like, I love that. I'm going to buy that. You get home, you need a minivan. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You see something you like, you buy it. Don't do that. No, make a list of what you want to accomplish. In my world, obviously at the top of the list is you got to make a living. That thing. But also in my world, I had traveled for a living. I wanted to spend time with my kids and my family. So that was on my list. And that was one of the things that fit in this business. And there was, I don't know what else was on there, but that was the main thing that turned out to be better than everything else out there because they all became coffee. Most of them worked in the coffee shop. Then they became addicts of coffee. Now we meet there all the time. And we'll
Yeah.
always meet there. But anyway, it really has worked out well from this standpoint. Starting that business, whatever it looks like on one side of the counter, that's not what it is. The other side's totally different. Uh, there's all kinds of different pieces to it, but I was looking for a way to make a living. I felt I could do it. I'm that guy that just, the nutcase that says if you see something, you're like, well, I can do that. So anyway, that's
Right.
how we got into it. And it was hard in the beginning. It was brutal, but it's
Yeah.
turned out to be a really good business.
Was the daily grind already an existing place that you took over, or did you start from scratch?
Well, it was a franchise that I bought into. I got in with the idea I was going to develop the franchise.
Okay.
That store that we're in, it was what I said was going to be the training center. I said, if you're going to sell a franchise, you got to know what you're talking about, right? You
Right.
got to do it. So that was it. I said, I'm going to do that. I had other people come that wanted to open stores. All the rest of them closed, by the way. That one just stuck because too insane to quit would be my comment. It's a persistence, determination. You just don't quit. You don't give up. So
Yeah.
that's where that is. But it's again took a long time to get there. Now it's a really good business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Golly, I don't know how long you've been open, but I've been going there, I think, as long as we've lived in this part of Atlanta. And it's almost 25 years. I don't know if you've been if it's been there that long, but it seems like it. And I can remember things
Oh,
like, I think you've had musicians in there, you've had,
oh
you've
yeah.
toyed with a lot of things.
We've tried a lot of different things. In the beginning, you're starving. We've been there since 2006, put it that way. So
Okay.
was that 18 years, something like that? It took about 5 years before it made any sense, by the way.
Okay.
And there's a long story behind that. If you go to the bank to borrow money to start a business, yeah, I went to the bank and the banker looked at me and said, you said something like, reminded me that 86% of these fail. That was his comment.
Right.
And after opening in 2006, getting to 2009, watching the world crumble at, 2008, 2009, more like 90% fail. It took 5 years before it made any money, put it that way.
Now, it's interesting. I come from a similar background. I sold software and outsourcing and long, long sales career. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that to be successful in sales, it's not just the fact that you communicate well. You know a lot of different parts of business and you understand what makes a deal smart for a customer and all those things. So, what were some of the skills that you brought to the table that has helped you in this small business endeavor?
Well, the primary thing would be that persistence and determination thing, that where you just don't quit. There's a million little pieces of that business, and you've got to keep massaging and changing things till you get it to where it works right. That's what it comes down to. But it's as a sales guy, you learn how to read people, you learn how to talk to people. You're that piece, the communication piece. And I'm not a great salesman, but when your refrigerator's empty, you go sell something so you can feed your kids, that kind of thing. That's what always drove me. But it's being able to talk to customers and stuff like that was a chunk of it. But I'm also the guy that can fix almost anything made. So you learn how to fix all the stuff that breaks, everything from refrigeration to freezers to espresso machines to toilets, you name it, it breaks. And if you can't fix it, good luck. Put it this way, when you buy a refrigerator at your house, somebody comes and delivers it, it sits in the kitchen for 15 years till it dies, and then they bring you another one, right?
Right.
You take a commercial refrigerator, put it in the back, you leave 6 months, it's done. It done. You've got to take care of that thing. You've got to clean the coils and crap. Otherwise, it's done.
Wow.
And
So, what were some of the preconceptions that you had when you went into it, and where were they wrong?
well, I mean, the idea of the banker piece, that's the concept that bankers don't lend money to people that need money. That's one comment I would make. If you need money, good luck. You're going to pay dearly for money, especially in the world of business. That would be one thing that I didn't quite understand what that was. And I knew the business was going to be hard, and that never bothered me. But I had no idea it was going to be that hard,
Okay.
because it's a really hard business. If you don't know what you're getting into, whatever you're thinking, it's hard. Put it that way.
It's funny. I look at that business because again, you're like my second office. So I come up there and I think, guy, you've got okay, 6 people working here today, and you've got to get supplies. And if something's out, somebody has to fix it. And you've got, all this mechanical stuff, like you said. If the refrigerator goes out and you call the repair guy might say, can't get there till next Tuesday. So it seems like there's a whole lot of plates that are spinning.
Yep, there's when you say the refrigerator, I recently replaced there's a walk-in freezer in the back, and I recently had somebody come and replace the mechanics of that thing because it finally died. 16 years old, it finally died or whatever. But you see that stuff, you'd be surprised what you can do to make it limp along if you know what you're doing. And I've been back there. In that office, I've got a hair dryer back there. So why do you have a hair dryer in a coffee shop? Because you might need it to thaw something out that's frozen on a refrigeration piece of equipment. That's why, it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So people that kind of have this romantic idea that they're going to stand behind the counter like Sam Malone in Cheers and wipe it down and gab with all the customers, and it's just going to be this. I'm going to pour coffee today, and where are they
Yeah,
wrong? Listen,
well, here, let me go. I'm going to go on both sides of it. Being behind the counter, talking to customers is the best thing going.
yeah,
It beats the heck out of working to make a living. It does. It is awesome. When it works, it's the best thing ever. The problem is, like the guy said, 86% of them don't work, period. There's the one to close. What about the rest of them? Are they making money, or are they stuck there because they have a lease and it's just making enough to keep it going, but you can't leave because you're personally stuck on a lease? A lot of business out there is like that.
yeah.
That particular shop does very well, but it took 5 years and no money. 5 years you're digging into your pocket every month to keep going, and
Yeah.
after you get it going, it takes a while to build it into something. But
So
it's
how have you handled the employee issue? That's one of the things that I always see small businesses, they underestimate that hiring people it's a lot of art and it's a lot of science. I mean, there's a lot of both, and
It's
you get some good
it's
ones, you get some bad ones, and a bad one can be really detrimental to your business.
there's that it's a hard gig, and you can't you don't you never really know whether or not you have a great employee till you have the employee. Until you have them in there, sometimes it just doesn't work, which is ugly. Nobody wants to tell somebody goodbye when it doesn't work out, but sometimes it doesn't. Luckily, in our case, I've been there long enough now that the kids are actually hiring the kids, so I'm not directly involved in hiring any,
Now,
which is
how does
kind of
that work?
nice. What do you say?
How does that work? Have you designated somebody like a manager and you it's
Well,
really
what happens is I had run the place and my kids ran the place, and my youngest, Nikki, she's my youngest child. She runs the place now. And she and
okay?
another friend of hers, they take care of hiring, they take care of scheduling, all that kind of stuff.
All right. So
So,
they are very much a trusted employee who's been around for a while.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The rest of them turn pretty quickly, as you probably noticed. You know, you have an employee,
Always
they're
seem to be college age, high school age kids. So I assume, okay, school changes, life changes, they move on. There's always somebody else
exactly.
to work there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's probably one of the best things about the business. One hand, you don't like that you have tremendous, change and employee having to train people all the time and stuff. But the other side of that is that's why you're there. It's the impact you have on those kids. They come through the door. There's and the kids in there are awesome, by the way. It's a
Oh
really
yeah.
good group. You'll get some people that come in, the world's lying to them like crazy and tell them all kind of stuff. And you get to, well, I don't want to say anything that'll get me in trouble, but you get to have an influence on their life. That's why you're on the planet, by the way. But that's really what makes it fun. It's that rewarding piece when you have somebody come back to you 10 years later and tell you thanks. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So somebody that was exploring this, um, what would you tell them? All right, make sure these three things are at the forefront of your, you know, daily attention or however we want to
Well, it's
frame that.
when you say that, if you're just starting in business in general, I'd say write down what you want to accomplish. Make sure that what you're digging into, because I started out, I was looking for cash flow. I was going to buy something that was operating already, because
Mm-hmm.
the risk on startup it's really scary stuff. I couldn't find anything that made any sense. But again, list out what you're trying to accomplish. That'll keep you looking in the right direction for what you're trying to find. Um, from there, I mean that's well, here's a comment. It's in retail, it's location, location, location. Duh, it really is. And then you come to, well, gee, you'd think after a while you'd be better at picking location, right? Well, look at Starbucks. Starbucks still picks bad locations and closes them.
Oh,
That's
sure.
my comment. You don't know what a good location is until you're really in there for a while. So it's the risk is great. So that'd be my primary thing. If it's not a dynamite location, don't do it. Don't even think about it. Run from it. In
What
our
about
case,
suppliers? How did you find suppliers?
the beginning of the franchise had some of it lined up, and that's
Okay.
all changed. You're constantly looking for somebody that'll help you a little more than the last guy. I mean, you're looking for you're constantly. It's a combination of trying to maintain margin. In the wholesale world, by the way, it's way more expensive to buy a lot of things wholesale than it is to walk into a Sam's Club or a Costco or a Walmart and buy it. So we have a truck runs around every day. We pick up product out there because it has allowed us to lower our cost. And then the next piece is, instead of buying pre-made whatever, you make it from scratch. So not only do you lower cost, but you make the quality even better. And therefore your margins are better and you can make a living.
Okay. Okay. I know most coffee shops, yours included, has baked goods, and that can be a big draw if they're good. Yours are great. So
Well, it's all made from scratch. And it didn't start that way. The initial franchise thing was you buy a bucket of muffin mix, you scoop and you bake it, right? Yeah, the problem is the guy with the bucket's making the money, and you're by the time, if you throw any of it away or anything, you lose. But if you make it from scratch, then you can actually make it better. And
yeah,
that's come about over the last 18 years. Somebody comes in, they start baking, they say, well, they change something a little bit, you talk about it, and we do like a blind taste test. We'll bring something out with A and B on it, and you try it and decide, do you like A or B? That's how we decide which one we're going to keep. that kind of thing, the blind taste test. We do that employees too. We don't tell them what it is, blind taste test, and we
Okay.
pick the best. Yep, that kind of thing.
All right. Well, I can't tell you how many of the gluten-free chocolate chip cookies have come home with my wife. So,
Well, I can tell you a story about that gluten. We started out, we used to buy cookies that were pre-made and bake them off. Then I started making them in the back, hand stirring stuff, making cookies in the back because you had to improve your margin, and then you found out you could make it better. And I don't know when we got to the gluten-free cookie, but that gluten-free cookie, we put that thing on a plate, gluten-free versus regular chocolate chip cookie, A and B, gluten-free won. People liked it better than the regular cookie. I don't know if it's the flour that it's made out of with the butter in it. I don't know what it is, but that thing is really good.
oh, it is. I know.
Yeah.
So again, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of the 27-year-old kid that has their first job out of school, and then they decide I'm just not made for the corporate world. I want to own a coffee shop. That's what I'm thinking is watching this.
Right.
When you were first getting into this, those first, 4 or 5 years, what was your typical day? Because when
Oh
you talk
boy.
about baking the baked goods, they got to be there in the morning when the morning crowd comes.
Well, when we opened, we had no idea what hours we should be open. So we opened at 5:30 in the morning. We closed at 11 o'clock at night. Try that for a little while and see how that feels. But that's the way it started. Now, somebody gets there at a little bit before 5 now to bake. Of course, in the beginning, you're on your own with a couple of your family or whatever because you're trying to get going. Now it does well enough. We pay people to do that. Somebody gets there before 5 and starts to bake, and
Okay.
somebody's there 9 o'clock when the doors close. They got to clean. They'll be there till 9:30, 10. So
Yeah.
it's a long day.
What are some of the things that you've seen? I mean, anybody that has a retail establishment is going to have things that come up that are either stressful, entertaining. I mean, what are some of those
Okay.
anecdotes that come to mind when you think, yeah, this is nothing that's ever normal.
Yeah, well, there's always something. Put it that way. There's always something going on. Probably when you say stress, what kind of things stress you out? Obviously, if you're in the beginning when you're trying to make a buck, you're stressed out of your mind. But towards the end here, the things that stress you out, it's when you find that you're in the food business. You've got somebody with, say, chicken in the back that's frozen that decides, I'm going to thaw this out. I'm going to put it in hot water or something. It's like, no, no, no. If they leave it out on the counter or something, once it gets over 40 degrees, starts to grow bacteria, you make some people sick, you're done. Your business is gone, the whole thing. So that's kind of stress. You're always trying to make sure things are handled the way they should be so you minimize risk. Obviously, you don't want somebody to get hurt either,
Yeah.
but it's that thing. The risk is great. So that would be your stress point.
Having a franchise originally, the one thing that a franchise brings to the table is typically some operating parameters so that you understand, okay, if I follow this path, I can be successful because they've tested it, they've optimized it in some way, and at least it gives you guidelines. So, for example, you mentioned, if a chicken gets to 40 degrees, the bacteria can begin to grow. All of those food safety protocols come in. How would somebody go about doing that if they didn't have a franchise to lean on?
Well, the franchise was of great value in the beginning, taught me, like you say, laid out some rules, had some game plan, helped you get connect to the suppliers and stuff. That helped us get going. That was a good thing in the beginning. But once it kind of went south, it wasn't a great thing. Like, we would make a smoothie product. I'm trying to think what we were making. We made a cookies and cream smoothie in there that we sold a bazillion of them. And theirs was made with espresso, and we made it with espresso. We also made it with ice cream base, and people love that thing. So they'd come in and they say, you can't do that because it's not according to franchise standard. And then you're looking at them and say, well, I want to sell the customer what the customer wants. That thing. Ultimately, the franchise goes away, and we continue to sell the customer what they want. That's but starting out, I would go work in a place. If I was going to start over again, not knowing anything, I'd go find a shop. I'd go to work there. Yeah, I
Okay.
would. Yeah, you're going to take $300,000 and risk it. You might as well go to work for a little while somewhere. Don't even worry about making money. Don't worry about learning how to do it.
Yeah. And probably not a Starbucks because a Starbucks has such a different model than your local coffee shop. I mean, they're pulling stuff out of cellophane and throwing it in a microwave. and it
Right.
tastes, but it's not the same. So, uh,
Right. It's not the same. And the next piece is if you buy it and it's whatever you buy that's pre-made like that and microwave it, you're not going to make enough of a margin on it to keep your shop open. That problem. So yeah, I'd say if you're going to do this, I would go somewhere, work, go within an independent shop somewhere and work there for a while to learn what it is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that thing.
I think I shared with you that my daughter had considered it, and
Okay.
he had looked at another coffee shop and thought, well, I could work there for a little while. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking it's either going to create a stir in you that this becomes a passion that you need to follow, or it's going to cure you of this.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's really true. That's probably one of the things that might be a little bit unique with our shop. It's the connection to the people. That's what it is. That's the whole reason we're there. And that's what, it's funny when you say that because my daughter's been there since I don't know how old she was when we opened that thing, she was probably 12 or something. She worked a drive-through window. She could walk up the drive-through window and put her head on the
Okay.
windowsill. She worked drive-through window there for a while. She's been there that entire time. And one of the reasons she's still there is the impact she has on the kids working there and the customers and all that kind of stuff. It's very rewarding. You can do a lot of things for a living, but how do you find something where you really want to do it? That thing.
So, anything strange ever happen? Anything that,
Well, there's one
walked in or anything funny?
there were a lot of crazy things in the beginning because we had 1,000-volt power spikes in the building. We had no idea what it was. You got equipment burning up. One night the TV caught on fire, all kinds of weird stuff. Finally, the power company came in and plugged a piece of equipment in and registered, they could see it. And I had to put a power conditioner on the panel back there. But that caused a lot of problems. But there's been some other odd things in there. One of my favorite stories, and I'll have to show you, I've got a video of this from a security camera. We always joke about there being a ghost in the building because weird stuff happens in there. So one day I'm in the back, and this is all in a video. We, I'm back there, and a piece of plastic flies off the shelf while I'm back there. Just one little plastic clip. It pops off the shelf, and I go something like "Daily Ghost," just joking. The girl in the back says, "I wonder if Bernard exists." Bernard is what they refer to with this ghost thing. The words come out. She says it, and within a half a second, shelving board, these cutting boards fly off the shelf, and then I've got this box of melons back there, like a big milk crate sitting on the shelf. It flies off the shelf too. You'd say somebody pushed that thing off. I will tell you, nobody was there, nobody pushed it off. Bernard does exist. That would be my comment, and you can take that for what you want. And I'll show you the video when you're in there. Ask me, and I'll show it to you. It's you will come away wondering. I'll tell you that.
That's great. That's great. But the shop has so much character and personality that I'm sure that any entity like that would want to be there. So,
right. Well,
yeah.
it's the people, it's the customers in there. Just awesome group.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Matt, man, I really appreciate it. This has been a great conversation. I want to highlight just a couple things before we're completely done. And again, given the audience for this, that it sounds like you've got to have a decent amount of capital to get into it.
Yep.
You better have some savings to rely on because you're going to have personal expenses that may have to see through for quite a while. If the shop is just breaking even, it's going to be
right.
You're resting on that savings, to put food on the table back at the
right.
rent. And you've got to be resourceful in terms of being able to kind of take care of equipment and the other resources that are in the shop. People are critical, and it's rewarding that you can have an influence on them, but you do have to hire the right ones to support the business. But it sounds like a great business. It was a great fit for you, and I'm thankful that it's there. And
yep, and
keep it going. And
yeah, when you mention that about the cash to get started, my comment there would be that it's not only does it take whatever your investment is, you need to put in it to get the doors open, but you better have a pile of cash behind you because whatever you think, you say it's going to be 6 months or a year and I'm going to break even. It generally, in general, a business, it takes about 3 times longer than you think, that comment. It always does. So
Yeah.
you better have a bunch of, I think a lot of businesses would make it, but they run out of cash before they get to that break even point, that issue. So yeah, be ready for the long haul would be my comment.
Good, good. And that seems to be, fairly common across any business that someone starts up is if the big mistake is not enough working capital.
Yes, exactly.
They go dry before they ever, thought they would. And next thing you know, they're having to walk away from it. So,
Yep, exactly.
well, again,
Right.
Matt, I really, really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you soon.
That sounds good, John.